and approved unanimously for the flag bearer to challenge the outcome of the presidential elections.
We have details as Deputy Information Minister says government will not be distracted by the decision to challenge the results of the polls. Majority Leader Osei Chairman Sabonsu makes a strong case for John Mahama to concede defeat as he urges the former president to call riots and supporters to order.
Somebody has beaten you by over 500,000. You say you have won. And yet you have no pinch sheet to show. I mean, let's be realistic.
Also in sports.
Former Dutch international George Boateng expresses his desire to coach the Black Stars. Details when I join you in 20 minutes with sports.
And as the year 2020 draws to a close, Joy News puts the spotlight on you, our cherished audience who have driven the success of our various shows from Newsfile to Drive Time. We have that and more here on the Midday News. You with me, Emefa Apau. Please stay for details. Thanks for your company. Let's head to the Volta region now, Hohoi to be precise. And protesters from some communities there, 4 of those communities have clashed with traditional warriors during a protest over the exclusion from the recent parliamentary elections. The protesters from Santro Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe and Lolobi marched with some assembly members from the communities. But the protest turned violent when some warriors from Hohoi prevented the march at B Atemvi. It took the police and the military to quell the violence. Listen. So what you're hearing there sounds from the scene earlier today, but my colleague Fred Kwame Asare is on the ground. He joins us on the line with more. Fred, what's the situation now as we speak?
Well, as we speak, there is swimming calm here. The protesters are trying to go back to where they came from. But then let me give you a rundown of what actually happened here. Earlier in the morning, people from the Oti area, that is the Sando Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe, and Lolobi traditional areas were in Hohwe Atabu to protest their exclusion from participating in the parliamentary elections. So when they got here, members of the NDC also joined them, also to organize their nationwide demonstration here in Hohwe, where they are protecting the declaration of the presidential and parliamentary elections by the Electoral Commission. So they started the demonstration from B Atabu. However, when they got to Atamve, they were prevented from entering Pahwe Main and then proceeding to the Electoral Commission to hand over their petition. The warriors from Pahwe mounted a blockade here and then gave reasons that they are embarking or doing some traditional rites, so they will not allow them to proceed and then enter and then go to the Electoral Commission. However, the timely intervention of the police, military, and then immigration prevented any chaotic thing. So while the military police were trying to resolve the issues and then allow the protesters to continue with their protest, people from the protesters, that is the people from the SAL area and then members of the NDC, started tossing stones towards where the warriors are. I saw one guy who was hit in the head by a stone, so he fell flat on the floor. He had injuries on his head. However, that happened for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then both sides dispersed. People from the B area dispersed, and then those from the Sandoko Fiakpafu Likpe and then the NDC protesters also dispersed. However, they came back and then converged again and then tried to make their way through. But then the military tried to explain to them that looking at the situation, they should just rescind their decision and then stop and then do not continue with the protest. But then they were also insisting that they have petitions that they needed to present to the Electoral Commission, though, so they would continue. However, after George joined with their leaders, they agreed that they would disperse. So they read out the petition they had for the EC. They read it out to the media and then advised the protesters that they should go back to where they are coming from. So we saw some of them getting on board some buses that actually brought them while they that brought them here. So they are trying to make their way back to the community.
Okay.
Communities where they came from. And then to add to that, whilst the guys were making their way back into the community, there was a bit of chaos again. The military tried to make way for the protesters to actually go through the blockade. However, when they got to the other side, they started pelting stones at the residents and the big residents, and then they also had to retaliate, and then they also threw some stones towards the vehicle that was conveying there.
Okay,
so
that led to the
peace.
firing of gunshots and all. But can you say that we don't have any injuries or casualties as yet?
Yes, like I said earlier, when they were taught or they were throwing the stones, I saw one guy who was hit in the head. He had a severe injury in the head. So that is the only person I saw who suffered major injury. Some of them also had cuts on their hand. When they were running away, they fell and then they had cuts on their hand and stuff like that. But then the major injury I witnessed is the guy who was hit in the head by a heavy stone.
Okay, that's my colleague Fred Kwame Asari, is our Volta regional correspondent, bringing us up to date on that protest by residents of Santro Kofi, Akpafulikpe and Lolobi earlier today. Well, the Supreme Court has just given a decision on this a few minutes ago. They've set aside January 4 as a day to hear legal arguments in a case that could potentially determine whether or not Energy Minister John Pitame is sworn in as MP for the Hohoi constituency on January 7. Now, there is currently in force an injunction granted by a whole high court barring the EC from gazetting Mr. Amewu as winner of the polls. Now, this injunction was granted after some residents of Santro Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe and Lolobi argued failure to vote in the just ended parliamentary elections amounted to a breach of their rights. Now, the Deputy Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, however, argues that the High Court erred when it granted the injunction and wants the Supreme Court to set it aside. The court today granted Mr. Dame's request to have an earlier hearing to ensure the matter is determined before January 7. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us with more on this particular case. Now, Joseph, explain to us the basis of this request by the AG to have the matter heard and determined before January 7.
And so, the matter filed by the AG is actually supposed to be heard on 12th of January 2021. Now, Mr. Dame argues that this is a case that affects the rights of the Hohoi constituents to have a member of parliament on January 7, 2021. It also potentially affects the composition of parliament, which will take place on January 7 after January 6 when the current parliament lapses in terms of its tenure. And so he says that it was important that the court hears and deals with this matter before the January 7 date.
So we understand that Mr. Tachichikata, who represents the residents of Sao, was not required to be in court, but showed up and actually asked that the court hears the matter earlier than the January 4 it actually granted?
Yes, he said that his clients had heard in the media that there was a case that was to be heard today, and so they have come in to speak to the court because they are aware they are supposed to respond to the AG's case on January 12. And he makes the point that whatever decision that the court will take in relation to when to hear the matter earlier than the January 12 date has the potential to affect him, as he would have to prepare a case and respond on behalf of his client. And so he asks that the court grants him audience, even though he is not served in this particular motion and is not required to be present. Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame said he was not opposed to Mr. Chikata being heard by the court on this issue of hearing the matter early. He proceeded to hear the two lawyers who both agreed that the matter should be heard earlier than the January 12 date. And so Mr. Dame said he was comfortable with any day before January 7. While when the court suggested that the case should be heard on January 4, Mr. Chikata said he wanted an earlier date, and if it could be heard even on January 1, which is a statutory public holiday. And the court pointed out that it's currently on vacation, has been granted a warrant to sit during the vacation, and that warrant cannot cover a statutory holiday. That could be done only by the presidency that could grant them that exemption. And so he was actually asking that the AG proceeds to request if the presidency could even grant that for the case to be heard on that holiday. But Mr. Dame said that he has instructions that the case should be heard before January 7, and any day before January 7 is comfortable. They are committed to an expeditious hearing, and they are willing to hear the case before the January 7. And so the court said they should come back on January 4 for the case to be heard. It gave directives. One, Mr. Chikata is to file his response to the Attorney General's case by 12 noon tomorrow. The Attorney General's office has the option of responding to whatever Mr. Chikata will be filing if it deems it necessary by close of day tomorrow. Then the oral arguments will take place on January 4 with the expectation that the court may deliver a judgment on that day or on any day before January 7.
Okay. Well, there's a bigger issue away from the Hohoi parliamentary dispute. We know that the NDC was to file a presidential petition. Has that been done?
No. As I speak to you now, I checked just before I came on air. They are yet to file that particular petition, and we are currently pitch camp here at the Supreme Court registry waiting for that to be done.
And I know that Joseph Akable will not miss that, and he will definitely bring it to you once they file the presidential petition. Meanwhile, Minority Chief Whip and Aswasi MP Muntaka Mubarak is optimistic about the evidence the NDC has so far gathered.
Some of the things that I've seen, I want to believe that even if President Nana himself sits as part of the panel,
that he will give up his seat for you.
No, I'm telling you, because you see, whoever thought
that is not happening. You know that.
No, but whoever thought Malawi could ever have the court says that no, this is really fraudulent. Go and rerun it, and the opposition have won. You saw. Whoever thought in Kenya that the court was no, the evidence before us is heavy. We can't allow this injustice to continue.
You have that kind of evidence.
Let the court start. Yes, I belong to the group that keep insisting that regardless of whatever it is, let's go to court. I belong to the group, and I believe that the voice of those of us who are insisting that we should go to court is becoming louder.
Now, in that same interview with Evans Mensah, Mr. Muntaka Mubarak says the judges will have to be mindful of the outcome of the decisions they take.
And also admit, there are people within the party that believe that, look, this is a court that is packed by the president. I mean, in our history, we've never had the Supreme Court gone beyond 50. The highest we've gotten to is 15. As a March, when we're vetting the others, we took them to 19. In this country, nobody said anything. Today, 11 of the Supreme Court judges were appointed by Bernardo. And people just think this is nothing. It is. So others are of the view that, so it's not going to be a waste of time. Some of us are of the belief that democracy gets strengthened through this process. Forget about the outcome. Whether the outcome comes well for you or it doesn't go well for you, it adds to the democratic credentials of the country. It becomes precedent. So I want to believe that our judges are also rational. They will have to be mindful of the consequences of whatever decision that they take, because it becomes the norm thereafter. And I want to believe that they will do the right thing. Yes, 11 of them were appointed by this president, but I want to believe that they believe that what is happening, the whole world is watching them.
That's the Minority Chief Whip and Aswasi MP Muntaka Mubarak. But the Deputy Information Minister, Pius Enam-Hajide, says government is focused and will not be distracted by the decision to challenge the results of the elections.
We do not see any obstruction. We are focused. As we speak, the transition team is working. As well, we are planning a COVID-compliant inauguration within the precincts of Parliament on the 7th. We remain focused. We are not distracted by the fishing that our colleagues in the NDC are engaged in. It's a fishing expedition. We are going to allow the laws of this country to apply, and that's what it is. Okay? But let's do just the right thing.
Now, legal practitioner Samson Ladia-Nyenene is confident the Supreme Court can adjudicate any petition brought before it within the stipulated 42-day period. He's been speaking on Prime Morning on the Joy Prime channel.
I am thinking that the 42 days is just perfect. Now, remember that they have not just provided for 42 days. They have also done away with certain things which will limit the lawyers and the party from the typical litigious attitude that drags a case. So after you file your case, initially you were allowed to amend and to alter your case from time to time until judgment had been rendered. But with the new rules, once you file the case, you are not allowed by law to amend or to alter your case in a way that changes the reliefs that you have come to seek in the courts. Only the presidential candidate of the aggrieved party is allowed to be the party who is going to sue. No other, the party itself is not allowed to join. Like in the 2013, you saw NDC join the suit. It's not allowed anymore.
Legal practitioner Samson Ladi Anyenene, so the 21-day period to file the presidential petition is elapsing today, and the NDC is racing against time. Let's head back to the Supreme Court. Court correspondent Joseph Akable tells us there's a development. Joseph, what's the situation?
Some members of the opposition NDC just walked into the Supreme Court registry. Ediji Tamaklo is a member of the legal team, together with National Communications Officer Sami Jemfi. They just entered the Supreme Court registry holding a batch of documents, and the understanding we have is that they are here to undertake the filing of this particular election petition. And so we are currently waiting right at the entrance of the registry, how they are inside going through the processes, and we'll bring the latest once they are done here.
Well, but I'm sure you've been monitoring their mood and all. How does it look like?
They look very pensive. Their documents closely clutched in their hands as they walked in with some other members who were helping hold some of the documents that they had brought in. And so it appears that they are clearly bent on going through this process and getting it done, and knowing very well that they have to finish it by close of day today.
Well, Joseph, I'm sure you pitched come there, and then once they are done with the filing, we'll get back to Joseph Akable, hopefully before the end of the midday news. Now, Majority Leader Oseichi Mensah-Bonsu says NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama must concede defeat and call to order his protesting supporters. John Mahama secured a little over 47% of valid votes, while his contender, Nana-Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, garnered over 51%. The NDC claims the election was stolen in favor of President Akufo-Addo, although observers have said it was free and fair. Members of the party, backed by the leadership, have since the verdict embarked on various protests across the country, in some instances clashing with security. Speaking to Evans Mensah, Mr. Mensah-Bonsu said the protests must give way to peace.
And I just want to believe that the presidential candidate would have to stamp his authority. Even if you did that once to appease supporters, now you should do what is right. Akufo-Addo lost to President Mills the first round in 2008. Akufo-Addo won, but he didn't get the requisite number. He then required 23,000. He couldn't to have won outright. He didn't get it, so he didn't win. There was a second round, and then President Mills then came to beat him by 27,000. With this, we had to wait for time. Time came on board, and Mills then won eventually by 40,000 votes. We conceded 40,000. We conceded. Somebody has beaten you by over 500,000. You say you have won, and yet you have no pinch sheet to show. I mean, let's be realistic. When President Mills won, he won. Yes, the Constitution requires of you to win by 50% plus one. Anything beyond 50%, so plus one vote will qualify you. He won by 50.07% against Akufo-Addo. Nobody protested. President Mahama, when you won in 2012, which matter went to the court. We had 122 seats in Parliament. At the time, they had 149 initially, right? And yet, the 122 votes outnumbered the 149 seats that we garnered. Outnumbered the 149, which is why we saw there was something wrong. He said he had beaten Akufo-Addo by 300,000, which translated into 50.6%. Akufo-Addo conceded. This one is 51.69, almost 51.7. You don't want to concede?
That's the Majority Leader, Oseichi Mensah-Bonsu. I'm sure NDC members will say that's too late now, because this is the midday news. But we've been hearing or learning in the last few minutes that lawyers for the NDC presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama are currently at the Supreme Court to file that presidential petition against the just ended general elections results. We'll bring you more when we come back from the break, and also in sports. We also have sports, and then also much later, as the year draws to a close, Joy News puts the spotlight on you, our cherished audience, who have driven the success of our various shows from Newsfile to Drive Time.
Till date, I don't miss Newsfile because of that, the objectiveness and the thoroughness of the content that is produced.
Challenges Bronya dear, we're going to make every moment special. Whether it's
I see you, Kipo.
There's more than enough drama series to bond over. There is something to keep you.
What are we doing today, man?
Endlessly entertained. You won't miss the action between.
My body will be better. Ronaldo or Messi.
We're not going to rescue you from Auntie's questions. So
you said when you dey marry now.
That will give you ideas. Choose DSTV this holiday season and make it your moment for only 45 Ghana cedis per month. DSTV, it's your moment.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K-Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the Upper East region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrots FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do sports now.
Ghanaian-born and former Netherlands midfielder George Boateng has indicated his wish to coach Ghana's senior national football team. He says his good relationship with the GFA can be one factor to support his stint with the Black Stars if he ever gets the chance. The midfielder, who made his Netherlands debut in November 2001, also commended the current GFA administration for their management of Ghana's football in the last year. George Boateng is currently a youth coach at Aston Villa.
If the Black Stars need me, I will always be available. I've always said that, and I would always help. I have a very good relationship with the GFA, with Mr. Okraku and the Vice President, Mr. Mark Addo. They are doing a great job now, and I've always indicated that if they need my services, I'm always able to talk, and if we can then come together and put our heads together and achieve and agree on something, that's perfect. But yeah, there will definitely be an interest to one day to manage Black Stars.
Log on to myjoyonline.com/sports for more sports updates. You are up to date in the world of sports. I'm Baba Tando from London.
Many thanks, Baba Tando, with the latest from the world of sports. Now, let me take you to the Jubilee House, where President Akufo-Addo says he's humbled by the renewal of his mandate by Ghanaians for another 4-year term. And, of course, he's receiving the last report of the National Council of State. And my colleague, Elton John Brobe, is there for us. Elton, what's containing that report?
So, in fact, the report catalogues the activities of the Council of State in the last 4 years, and also suggestions for improvement in our governance system. But receiving the result, President Akufo-Addo, took some time to respond to the outcome of the December 7th presidential and parliamentary elections. For him, he is humbled by the renewal of the mandate, and that places enormous responsibility on him to deliver to the expectations of the people.
That's the Presidential Affairs correspondent, Elton Brobe. Will bring you more from that in our subsequent bulletins. And as the threats on journalists soar, so are the voices calling for change. Individuals from the legal fraternity, medical field, civil society organizations want government to take action against the threat with immediate effect. Take a listen.
We have been told over and again by the Information Ministry that journalists must practice responsible journalism if they want to avoid these attacks. That is an aberration. It must never be heard. I have been at the receiving end of some of these threats, but no one should arrogate themselves the power to commit physical assault or issue death threats as a journalist. Our political leaders must be heard to condemn this very swiftly.
Some people are behaving this way. We must do everything within our power to stand up against it. Every day, we will stand up against these misguided elements.
We all as journalists need to ensure that we bring this to the forefront. We expect the Minister for Information to do more than he's done. It's good that he's spoken against it, but we need to ensure that immediately all journalists who have been attacked, all journalists who have been threatened, we need to protect the victims from protection. CID needs to be paying proper attention So what?
I have a little challenge with government's response. I think the rest of us can advocate, but government must take action.
Yeah.
I am not happy. With my good friend coming out, Kojo Opunkuma making a statement. That's good, but I think that the onus lies on government to take action.
Unfortunately, over the years, we've had a lot of cases gone unpunished, a lot of cases actually going uninvestigated, as a result of which there appear to be an entrenched culture of impunity.
Well, these are the attacks, and it must stop at some point. And in its 25-year history, its audiences have been at the heart of every programming. The multimedia group shows have largely been audience-driven. But what about the shows that have created this followership? I bring you two reports on news analysis show Newsfile, and then Drive Time on Joy FM. First, Matilda Gavi speaks to the people who cannot do without Newsfile.
Welcome to Newsfile. You know this is your most authoritative news analysis platform.
That's how for years you have opened your homes to us, dedicating your Saturday mornings to the Joy News brand. Newsfile has been a household name and a reference point for discussions around the most crucial issues confronting the nation.
We will not be discussing this matter because it's so petty.
Okay.
My position would have been the same if Nana Addo was the Auditor General and Domlevo was the president.
Sometimes it gets heated.
Assume that they're going to take 90% of equity. How much profit are you going to make on that box side to pay your $400 million to the... It makes absolutely no sense.
Thank you very much.
Other days, it's just thrilling.
Guys, Esla, John, please help us to wish Kweku Bako a very, very, very happy birthday.
No matter which side of the divide you belong, we give a fair hearing and have you ask your questions.
Maybe from the Honorable Former Minister, whether that is the position of NDC when they
Thank
come
you for the
to
question.
power.
So it's to you directly,
Data
John
bank
Jinapo. Yes, can we hear you too?
Taria J, my question is two. One is...
You'll ask one question, yes.
How do you deal with the threat that, confronts you?
We know how others are equally scrambling for your attention, but you make it a point to stick with the 99.7 dial.
I started listening to Joy FM when I was in high school. Till date, I don't miss Newsfile because of that, the objectiveness and the thoroughness of the content that is produced.
Thank you for making us number one for years.
So it's been a very tough, interesting experience altogether. I'm practically not involved in the production because there's a solid production team led by Samuel Dame and the rest of them doing the production work. I know that there are millions home and abroad who listen and watch Newsfile every single Saturday, being without any competition. I don't take that for granted.
Do make a date with us this and every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon as we serve you compelling and refreshing angles to the news on the front pages of your mind.
And what about the yo? Is the Yo Nation, the virtual community whose love for drive time on Joy remains unflinching. Mapitso Sibidi reports.
You can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody.
When you're tuned in to Joy 99.7 FM and this song plays, you already know it's time for the best late afternoon show on radio in Ghana. Drive on Joy has over the years commanded the airwaves with a unique voice, impeccable fashion sense, and memorable laugh. Lexus Bill has won the hearts of many listeners.
Over the past 6 years, it's been an exciting show. It's been amazing. I mean, we've got very interesting experiences. After the first year, we were crowned. It was crowned with the CIMG Radio Show of the Year, and that was a great moment for us. But aside delivering the excitement, the fun, and all of that for our listeners, it also seeks to be a show that impacts the community.
Unique greeting, good music, thrilling and educational interviews. Drive on Joy is live. But the most exciting part of the show is when we get to hear from you.
So I listen to Drive on Joy with Lexus Bill because the worship on Monday really sets my mood for the week.
I enjoy listening to Drive on Joy simply because Lexus gives the show this sort of vibe and feel like I like so much.
3 hours of inspiring messages, fun-filled content, stimulating conversations, and music to suit your mood. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to listen to Drive on Joy with Lexus Bill.
And he's on later today. It's the Yo Nation. What's a drive without drive time on Joy with Lexus Bill? And that's it for the midday news here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am MFAPO. And of course, Living Word with Pastor Menso to build this up next, and we're building.
When you want it, just mobile it. When you tire for the long queue in the supermarket,